Okay, I see numbers have started to slow down a little bit, so let's begin. It's mindful of everybody's time. So my name is Dean McKeown. I'm the director of the MMAI program here at Smith School of Business. So thanks a lot for taking time out of your day to join us for this webinar and learn a little bit about this program. I know artificial intelligence is on literally everyone's mind these days, and so that, of course, is translated into a lot of interest in this program. So we've got a lot of people registered for today's session, and hopefully we'll see many of you in the program itself. So as we go through today's session, we are using Zoom, so there is a Q&A button that you can access. So as you think of questions, please enter them into that Q&A, and I have my colleague Jen Mayer. Jen's going to answer those if they're a little bit more of a personal topic. She can answer those for you. And then she's also going to hang on to anything that she thinks might be applicable to more than us, than one person. And I'll answer those at the end of the session. Okay, so without further ado, hopefully you are here for the Master of Management in Artificial Intelligence program. Okay, so first thing we always like to do at Smith and at Queen's in general is to acknowledge the land that we're on and to know that Smith Toronto is situated on the traditional territory of the Huron, Wendat, and Petun First Nations, the Seneca, the Mississaugas of the Credit River, and of course we're very grateful to be able to live, learn, and play on these lands. Now, the other thing I want to make sure is, there's probably, I would think, well, there's two things. There's nothing worse than not joining a professional master's program when you think about changing your career and gaining some skills and things to build out a very successful, especially for us, management leadership roles. We want to make sure you're in the right program, right? So we do have a variety of programs offered at Smith, all very similar in delivery methods and that kind of thing. So if you're interested or you think you might be interested, please take a look at those and we can help you pick the right program for you. So we have a Master's of Management Analytics, the Masters of Financial Innovation and Technology, i.e. FinTech, and we have a Masters of Digital Product Management as well. And of course, our MMA program, which we're talking about right here. Now, we're a business school, okay? And this is a business degree. Today, every single company and every single manager and every single leader, every single board member is talking about artificial intelligence and how it applies to their organization. And that's exactly what this program really addresses. But it is a full master's degree, okay? So it takes 12 months to complete this program. You can expect significant academic rigor as you study through the program. We do have exams, we have assignments, we have team projects, we have presentations. And so there's a considerable amount of work that you have to accomplish in order to get this degree. We do know that the professional master's degrees can have a significant difference on your career. They can really help you develop the skills that you need, help you to identify some of the weaknesses and the areas that you need to improve on. Particularly our programs, because they're team-based programs, they allow you or teach you how to work with people. Okay, that's one of the things that that's a common theme amongst all of our programs is that the technology and that knowledge is only going to get you so far. You have to be able to figure out how to work with people in order to be successful. And so that's something that is a core feature of this program as well. And the idea too about academia, right? This is your opportunity to try new things, right? Practice your communications and your storytelling and to be able to develop those what we call power skills for your career because it's a safe space, right? You can say things that maybe you wouldn't say at work. You can go out on a limb and work on specific projects that you wouldn't normally work on. There's all these different opportunities for you to develop yourself and test and learn of what you're doing. Now, getting back to the AI specific piece. So here's a report from Boston Consulting. It came out 2023, but I think it's still extremely relevant today. And what we're looking at here is this idea about, what's going on in business and society and what is the impact on AI. And so this particular one is about AI at work. And so you can see, from the top lines, people are still very optimistic about AI. They're very excited about, what's going on in AI and how is this going to affect my job and how can I get ahead of it? I think that's why you're here today. But there's also a lot of concerns, right? There's a lot of projects, I would say over the past 2.5, 3 years, a lot of companies said, oh my gosh, we have to get into AI quick and figure out how to use this because the companies that do use it are going to be successful. The ones who don't will quickly fall behind. But they've discovered that AI isn't as simple as just AI, right? There's a lot of aspects, there's a lot of complexities. There's a lot of resource requirements. Things like cloud computing, GPUs and stuff can get very expensive very quickly. And so it's very important for organizations to really think about what they're doing here. What kind of AI are they implementing? What are they thinking about? What kind of problems are being solved? What's your return on your investment? And these are all things that we're going to be looking at in this program for sure. Now, more specifically in here, and this is a very telling graph that I like to include here because this shows you the difference of what's happening inside an organization. Okay, so we've got the leadership side of things who says, boom, yeah, we're using AI, we're regular users, this is the best thing ever. But then when you get down to the manager level, and these are the people who are actually implementing these systems and monitoring the work that goes in these systems, and all of a sudden it's down to like 46%. So there's this huge disconnect between the leaders and their expectations and what is actually happening at the managers. And then there's even a bigger disconnect when you start talking about frontline employees with only 20% as regular users. So what we're seeing here is a very huge disconnect. And basically what this could be related to is change management, right? You have to understand the implications. So when a leader comes along and says, thou shalt do's AI, managers are going like, whoa, wait a minute, what do you mean by AI? And what kind of tools are we supposed to be using? And what can we do? And then you got frontline employees are saying, yeah, this is too sketchy for me. I don't really know enough about this. I'm just going to do what I've always done and hope for the best. So this is where, again, a fundamental piece of this program is about the management of artificial intelligence. So we're going to help you work through this. And we have specific courses around AI and ethics. We have a course in leading change and intro to management. And these are going to help you form some critical thinking processes around artificial intelligence and how it can be applied inside your organization. And then when we talk about artificial intelligence, this is what, everyone talks about AI. And I think honestly, it's just because it's kind of a cool acronym. It's very simple to say AI. But what is AI specifically? And this is why, the Gartner hype cycle for artificial intelligence in 2024 is so intriguing to me because today, most people are thinking about generative AI as a product and how to apply generative AI to their organization. But of course, artificial intelligence and AI is much more than that. And you can see here from the different sort of technologies that are happening with simulations, multi-agent systems, quantum AI, autonomous systems, autonomous vehicles. I mean, it just goes everywhere. There's so much breadth. But the hype cycle is very real, right? So we're seeing things like responsible AI coming up to the top of the hype cycle. We've got AI engineering happening right now. And then we're starting to see things like model ops and generative AI on the downslope a little bit because people have tried to implement it. People have bought AI products and they're just not working as well, or they haven't been accepted as much as they thought that they would be. So these are all, for people who are interested in doing this kind of a master's program, this is what I call opportunity, right? If you get ahead of this and you can figure out this curve and figure out how to do these things and think about this technology, that's going to set you up for, when you get to that plateau of productivity at the tail end of the hype cycle curve, that's where you want to be. And that's where you want to lead your organization because that's the point of success. Okay, another thing is about thought leadership in the AI space. I just wanted to bring attention to this. This is from October. Our one professor, Jan.16, who teaches in this program, the AI and marketing course, she was interviewed by the Globe and Mail talking about, what's going on, how do you develop the right strategy for AI, and thinking about all the different uses of that. And so I just wanted to highlight that our professors are thought leaders in this space. They're literally leaders around AI and the implementation of AI, and we do a lot of not only like pure research, but actually applicable research with different organizations as well. Now, what do I mean by this? And so I always bring out this pyramid. It's supposed to be a pyramid. It's a two-dimensional pyramid. Talking about what do you need to do? How do you develop these systems? And the bottom line here, the very foundational piece, is verified and trusted data. You cannot build an AI system, right, if you don't think that the data that it's running on is verified and trustable. It's really important to figure this stuff out. And so we want to be able to identify, how do you do this, right? How do you verify? How do you trust the data? And then more specifically for this program is, how do you trust the models that are being built? And then we're looking at, there's 4 different types of what I call progressive analytics. And so we'll talk about that on the next slide. But we do want to get to that point of artificial intelligence, or what some people might just refer to as automated decision making, right? You don't want people to get involved anymore. You want to develop a computer system that grabs the data, analyzes the data, compares it, makes a decision or recommendation, and then implements it as well. And that's what we get into artificial intelligence. And then we can see this, how do we build AI, right? So we have to start with again, that data piece, what happened. And think about, at your organization, you probably have dashboards. And so descriptive analytics is identifying the data that's there, coming up with some totals, saying, okay, how many widgets did we produce today or this week or last month? It's about what's happened, right? And so it's very descriptive. It's very true. You can verify this. And as you can imagine, it's very helpful as well. The problem with companies, right? Companies don't want to know what happened today. They want to what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next month. And so we get into predictive analytics. And predictive analytics is a big part about the models that you'll run in an artificially intelligent system, because you want to start thinking and predicting what's going to happen next. However, what happens next in building a model, right? They're always inherently wrong. There's some variable that pops up, like a pandemic or something, that's going to mess up all of your models and things. So you want to get to a point where it's called prescriptive analytics. And this is, how do we make it happen? And this is the business side of things too, because there's a lot of decisions that a company can make to effectively have a good outcome. And so on the top of my head, I'm just thinking something like dynamic pricing, right? So when you are booking a ticket on an airplane, you never know how much your seat is going to cost compared to the seat beside you, right? There's always a difference in price there, and it's because of dynamic pricing. So when you think about the system that's behind a dynamic price fix, right? You're analyzing the supply of the airplane seats, how many seats are left to be sold. You're talking about the fixed costs of flying an airplane from, let's say, Toronto to Amsterdam. And then you're trying to think, okay, what are the prices now? What's the demand that we're seeing through the internet? How many people are like searching for this particular air trip? And what can they do about it? And how come they haven't bought it yet? And so what we do is we build systems that adjust the price. And it's like straight supply and demand, basic economics. If the price is lower, demand is going to increase. And the key objective here is to make sure that every seat on that airplane is sold before it takes off from Toronto. Okay, because one empty seat means you're leaving revenue behind. And so you want to be able to price it accordingly to make sure that every single seat is sold. And so that's what we're going to get into prescriptive analytics, where you can adjust the factors in your decision-making process to make sure you get the decision that you want it to be. And ultimately, of course, you can't have people involved in that process, right? This is just going to be too complicated, too complex. And so now we know that we can build an artificially intelligent system that uses something like machine learning and supervised machine learning to be able to analyze the data, understand pricing in the past, understand demand of today, and then figure out the system and adjust the prices accordingly, right? So this can happen in real time, very, very quickly. And that's going to make sure that you got the right price at the right time to make sure that plane takes off with all seats sold. And that's artificial intelligence. Now, AI is also broken down into what I would say two significant categories. Artificial intelligence, the term itself or the concept is very broad. We think about it as though computers and machines think and act sort of like humans. They can use some analysis to figure out what is the right decision at the right time, and we can program that in. But there's also getting into machine learning piece, right, where there's both supervised machine learning and unsupervised machine learning. And this is where we actually program systems to make decisions based on certain criteria. And it's a very simple, relatively simple idea that, when you've got something, like I was saying, go back to the pricing piece, when demand starts peaking up and prices start dropping down, well, when is it time to bring that price back up? But we can program that to say, hey, whoa, wait a minute. When demand hits this point and pricing hits this point, let's fix that in. Let's sell as many seats as we can and then analyze it and keep going like that. So that's all programmatic. There's another subsection of artificial intelligence called deep learning. And we actually have a specific course around deep learning as well. And this is where you actually program a computer system to think on its own, okay, to think like a human being. And so when you think about these, what we call multi-layered neural networks, they're very, very complex and they're very complicated. And to be fully transparent, they're not completely understood, okay? Because this gets back into brain function and human psychology and has a whole bunch of these different factors involved. And so the thing about deep learning is we know it can be accurate, we know that it can be super fast, but we know that the decisions a deep learning system makes are not necessarily explainable. And that becomes a big problem when you do have to explain the decision-making process of whatever you've done. So, quick example, you want to do a 60-second mortgage approval system, right? And you build the system because it has to be done in 60 seconds. You want it to be super fast. So you want to think about using a neural network. But when you do that, because it's unexplainable, or you can't pick it apart and say, okay, why did the computer system give the loan to this person and then deny the loan to that person? That makes it very difficult for, let's say, a financial institution to explain to the regulators and the government why did your system make that decision. And so because of that, there are certain neural networks and deep learning applications that just cannot be used for something in an industry that's really highly regulated, right? So for credit decisions, loan decisions, that sort of thing, we push it back up into machine learning so we can see the logic of how a decision was actually made. Whereas deep learning and neural networks, because they're pretty speedy, we'll save those for other things that don't have to be explainable. For example, sorting your pictures, going through GPS, doing facial recognition, that kind of thing. Those are totally applicable and very important, but they're not exactly explainable, right? Okay, so this is, when I talk about the MMAI program here at Smith, and I say, it's mathematically based, and this is exactly why it has to be the mathematics, because you want to understand the math behind each algorithm that you're using in your AI system. So these are some of the questions that we're going to be answering in the program, right? How do I know which machine learning model will work best with my data set? And you're probably going to want to run programs that use multiple models, and you want to be able to test it out to see what do you consider to be the best, right? This is the fastest, is it the most accurate, what have you. And this is where we always come back to saying test and learn, right? You want to see which one's the best one for you. And then how do I interpret the results of my model, right? Are you getting the results that you expected? And how do you interpret that to say, okay, this is the good model, right? How do you do this? How do you evaluate whether my model will generalize to future data? This is a big, big issue when you're trying to actually operationalize your machine learning, ML ops, that kind of stuff. Because one thing, if you're working on a subset of data, it's very, very small. Quite often people are using homemade data that they generate themselves just as like a random data set, and they want to be able to run it through the model. They think it looks good, they think it looks right. What happens when you scale that up and you start looking at real data that keeps coming in? It may not be as clean as the synthesized data that you already have. So you have to figure out, okay, how can I do this? And then the bottom was, how do I select which features should be included in my model? What am I going to do with this? How am I going to do it? How efficient does it need to be? How fast? How many GPUs am I going to be using? How much disk space? How much cloud compute? That kind of stuff. And those have impacts on things like budgets, but also reliability and accuracy. So that's the mathematics behind here. And that's why it's important that you're very comfortable with mathematics before you take this program. Now, the program structure itself, okay, I mentioned at the top, we're a business school, but this is a very technical program. So it's this combination of understanding the technology and being able to dig down into things like reinforcement learning, natural language processing, but thinking about the application of that knowledge, right? When do you apply it? When is the right technology at the right time for the right problem that you're trying to solve? So we're going to be looking at that. It's definitely a broader approach to solving problems because, again, you're looking at a company's perspective, right? And a business perspective. It's not like in computer science where you're saying, okay, here's the model we're going to do. We're going to fine tune this model. This is the data we got, and let's do it. Let's program this thing up and hit go and see what happens. We are trying to solve a business problem. Okay, so we're going to start with that business problem. What do you want to do? Do you want to segment your customers? Do you want to increase profitability? Do you want to successfully do predictive maintenance schedules on your equipment in the oil well, for example? There's all these different problems that you're trying to solve. And so you're going to apply some technology to help you solve that problem. So it's a much broader approach, right? Thinking about, okay, we're thinking about predictive maintenance for machines, or we're looking at loan decisions, or we're looking at hiring decisions and what kind of people do we want to bring into the organization. It's a very broad approach to solving these types of problems. And then this program also develops business leaders, okay? And this is a fundamental part of this program is that, yeah, we're not necessarily trying to develop people who are an AI expert. We really don't expect too many people to be working for OpenAI and developing the next version of ChatGPT. We're actually looking for our graduates to be significant leaders inside organizations, trying to determine what kind of technology we can use to solve our business problems and lead teams of people to do this work, because you're never going to be able to do it yourself, right? You're going to have a team, and you've got to be able to work with that team and lead that team. And so we're going to be, we have a coaching process and stuff to help you do that. Now, here's the actual curriculum for the program. We have what we call method courses. Okay, so again, understanding that mathematics to be able to test those algorithms that you're doing. So we got mathematics for AI. We want you to have a good understanding of what machine learning is and AI technology and the latest and greatest. And we want you to think differently, right? So we have this course, AI Innovation and Entrepreneurship, to think about, okay, when you're talking about or contemplating the digital transformation of your organization and the introduction of artificial intelligence to that organization, how am I going to do that? How do I find, the successes? And what do I think about this critically? And where am I going to hit the roadblocks? And so it's a big thought process that's completely non-technical, but you really got to think this thing through before you start applying this knowledge and making your company digital forward. Now, we also have those technical courses. As I mentioned earlier, deep learning, natural language processing, reinforcement learning, understanding those are fundamental technologies that feed up into something like generative AI. So it's really important that you understand those technologies, because it's not about, the product of today. What is it? ChatGPT 4.0. It's about ChatGPT 8.0. Like, what's coming down the pipe? What can happen here? And how is this going to change? And you as a business leader, you have to be on top of that. You have to know what's coming next. And you have to think about, okay, Well, I know that deep learning can go this far. And I know reinforcement learning has been really successful in this area. So maybe we can apply that technology to this business problem later on. And so this is something you can think about in the program. Then we have what we call application courses. Okay, and this is the very practical use of artificial intelligence in these different business units. So, of course, we can't do everything, but we've selected AI in finance and AI in marketing, and we also have a capstone project. So, once you get into the capstone, you can start thinking about you and your personal goals and your personal interests as well, and that's where the capstone comes into play. But we are going to show you how to apply this knowledge in the finance area and in marketing as well. And then, because there's emphasis on people and about leadership, we have these power skill courses. Okay, so we're going to introduce you to an introduction to management, because probably a lot of you have not taken business courses before. So we get into case studies, we start looking at companies, some of the issues these companies have been faced with, what's going on with both digital transformation and artificial intelligence. And so we'll do a deeper dive into that. We have agile project management for AI, because you've got to lead these projects. You got to understand the steps that are involved in developing an AI system. We have AI ethics and policy. I think there's not a company out there that's not coming up with some ethical principles that they want to follow as an organization. And so we want to make sure that the decisions we make, the data that we use, the solutions we come up with meet those ethical policies and expectations of your organization, but also on you, right? What are your ethical expectations for an AI system? So I think that's an important question. And then the last one is leading change, right? And this is, again, fundamentally, the whole package is about identifying people within the organization that are going to support you, people in the organization that you're going to have to convince to support you, and then understanding the relevance and the power of the people who will never support you. And so those three categories of people are extremely important for your success as a leader inside the organization. Because by segmenting those different groups and understanding who those groups are, you can really focus on the tactical parts of getting people to buy in, or actually dissuading people. Like, you're never going to convince them. So you just, spend your time elsewhere. Okay. Now, the delivery method. So this program starts, it is a 12-month program. It starts in May 2025. So we've got about 3 months before the program starts. As you start off with an opening session. Okay, so you come down to Queens in Kingston, Ontario for a full week. We call it the opening session week. During that week, you will learn about high-performing teams. You'll be introduced to your teams and your coaches, and you'll start taking a couple of academic courses as well. And so this is that literally an opening session where you get to know your classmates and your teammates, and you start doing the work together to be successful. It's a very foundational and learning process to begin the entire program. After that first week, then you'll take classes on every Tuesday night, usually from 5:30 to 9:30, and then one full weekend day every other week for 12 months. So in this case, it's Saturdays. So you'll be in our Toronto facility, which is, again, Simcoe Place, downtown Toronto. It's very convenient to Subway and Go Station, Union Station, all that kind of stuff. Plus, there's parking in the building as well. So it's very easy to get to. And, you'll be extremely busy for the next 12 months. And then throughout the program, you have your ongoing coaching, networking, and career support as well, because we understand that those are all very important to people. Again, getting to work with people, right? Understanding people. How do you successfully team up with different people to do different assignments and things? But I also understand too that the career part might be important to you. And so we have ongoing career support, and I'm going to talk about that in a future slide. Okay, I've done a lot of talk about people, and I've talked about the application of knowledge, but what are you actually going to use? So number one is Python. And I was just talking to a student the other day, and he actually referred to the slide that I use, and he said to me, he goes, well, I don't think we never actually had to use Tableau anytime, and I remember that being part of the information session. So I want to reiterate here on this particular slide that these are programming languages and tools that you can use if you wish. Okay, so Python for sure. You're definitely going to be using Python in probably all of your courses. There was that programming element for sure. SQL, of course, you use only if actually required. Using it to access a data set somewhere that requires SQL to be able to do that. So you can do that. We have academic licensing for Tableau, Snowflake, SAS Via, and Databricks as well. So if these are things that you want to try, we will provide you with the resources to be able to do that. I get guys from or people from Databricks and Snowflake and Microsoft Fabric and Azure that come in and give workshops and things every year. And so if that's something that's of interest to you, make sure you express that interest, and we'll make sure that we get the workshops for you. And the same thing with Tableau. Like if you want to use Tableau, that's great, but we as a program are not going to force you to use like a data visualization tool like Tableau, because your organization might use Click, right? Or they might use Power BI. And so, us sort of teaching you Tableau is kind of irrelevant to you. So what we like to do is we'll be tool agnostic. We make the tools available to you. You can use them if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And if you want to go down a certain path that, you're a Microsoft or Team Microsoft kind of person, and you don't want anything to do with Tableau or Databricks, that's fine. We can get you not only licenses for Office 365, but we can probably get you access to Azure and Power BI and that kind of Fabric as well. So just let us know what you're looking for and we can help you with that. Now, as a student, right, there's a lot of different things that you can get involved in. We do, however, understand that majority of people in the program work full-time. And so you probably don't have a lot of extra time to attend these kinds of workshops or participate in clubs. So again, everything's voluntary. You can pick to choose or not. Every class has a student leadership group as well. So we have a class president, for example, and that class president has an executive that supports him or her. And so those are things that you can get involved in if you want. We do have, as I mentioned just on the previous screen, we do have a variety of technical workshops that are available. But honestly, like we won't offer them unless we sense that there's demand for them. Okay, that's a really important factor because I know, for example, we ran some Snowflake workshops last year and we had like maybe 10 people show up. And you know what? In some cases, that's great. In other cases, it's not. We want to see like 15, 20 people show up. And so we usually wait for the student leadership, the student government group to identify what they want to see. And then we will go ahead and book those workshops for people. We just want to make sure that it's going to be valuable for not only the companies that come in, but also the students that participate. Now, this is the current class. Average age is 34. However, that age range goes from 22 to 52. So that's an important statistic to think about, is there are people who are older than 50. I've had people who are in their 60s take this program as well. And so, there's no real sort of definition of the perfect student to take these programs. And quite honestly, the diversity of thought from different ages and different industry backgrounds and different education enriches the program and the courses as well. So I think that that's a pretty important piece. Now, I did mention earlier about our career management framework. We do have career coaches. We have a whole bunch of different career workshops, things as basic as, how do you write a resume? How do you do a cover letter? How do you do interview skills? How do you, do mock interviews, all that kind of stuff. How do you develop your own personal brand? Those are all really important for you and your career success. We do have a job board as well. So there's a lot of companies come to us, post jobs that are doing, and we can help you, prepare for the application for that. And so there's a lot of opportunities here for your career management, and it is career. Okay, that's another thing too. It's not just about job search. It's really about sort of laying out the stepping stones for your entire career. So if you see yourself as being a CEO of a company, or a CIO of a company, there's different paths on how to get to those goals. And so our career coaches can help you to help, map out that path and make sure you've got the right steps to be able to get there. And so that's why I always encourage people to participate in as much of the career management workshops and support that they can. Now, as we mentioned, this is a full master's degree, so we do have some pretty stringent expectations for enrollment in the program for admissions. So it's a master's program, so you do have to have a baccalaureate degree, and that degree has to be from a recognized university. We are going to be looking at that degree. Generally, what happens in this program, we're usually from mathematics, business, commerce, computer science, economics, engineering, or sciences. However, I have had people join us from sociology, psychology, politics, that kind of stuff as well. The key there is to identify those courses within your undergrad that are mathematically based and statistically based. We want to be able to know that you have the ability to do the math when you need to. And this is just, I think, a fact of life for some people, is that math is not their subject and they have trouble with it. And we got other people who are all over the math and have no issues at all. We don't want to admit someone who will then struggle later on. Okay, so we're going to want that confidence that you will be successful in the program. It is a professional program, so we do look for a minimum of 2 years of work experience. So if you're currently in your undergrad right now, let's say you haven't graduated or you will graduate in May, that means you've got like 0 work experience to start in the May 2025 program. So what we will do, depending on your transcript, if you are like straight A student and you've got some co-ops or internships in there, and those co-ops and internships have been in programming, working for companies like IBM, for example, we want to see that experience that you've got. You've developed systems before, you've done this, you've been successful at it, and then we might consider you for the next intake of the program, right? So it wouldn't be May 2025, but maybe May 2026. So you'd be a year short of the work experience. So anyway, you can talk to our application advisors and they'll advise you based on your particular situation. We do require 2 letters of reference. Okay, now we also understand, as I mentioned earlier, about people being 55 and 60 years old taking this program. We don't require academic references. Okay, it's perfectly fine to come back with work-based references. Preferably one should be a supervisor at work and one should be a colleague, and that's perfectly fine. If you have an academic reference, that's great. We'll accept that as well, but in general, it's a colleague and a supervisor. We will look for official transcripts for an undergraduate institution. So that is really important. That is actually a requirement that we have from the Ontario government to make sure we get those official transcripts. And if we can't get an official transcript, i.e. your undergraduate institution either doesn't do that, or you have to go there and it's impossible to go back home kind of thing to get it, we will take an official WES assessment, okay, that is course by course. Okay, we need the course by course component as well. And so that will be very important to have. And so that will be the requirement in lieu of the official transcript from your undergraduate institution. We can start your application process with a resume and a cover letter and a copy of an unofficial transcript. That can get you in the door, start your application, and away you go. Ultimately, you will have an interview with the program director, i.e. me. We'll have a one-on-one chat, probably like 15, 20, 25 minutes, just about, you and the program, and is it the right fit and that kind of stuff. And so that's always one of my highlights, to be able to talk to individual students and find out what they're thinking and where they want to go. As with most business schools, we do accept GMATs, but I'd much rather have you working on developing your Python skills, for example, or understand a little bit more about the basics around artificial intelligence than studying for a GMAT. So don't start the GMAT until you've talked to us first. We will, and I'm going to talk about this in the next slide, but we'll go through, give you a preliminary assessment. And at that point, we may say you should really do the GMAT because that's going to strengthen your application. Okay, and these are the next steps. So we assign an application advisor to you once you've submitted your transcript and your resume. So that's the unofficial transcript, that's fine. Our application advisor will review this information, review your, the resume, your job, and that kind of stuff, figure out where you're coming from and where you want to go. And the application advisor will work with you on a one-by-one basis to make sure that you understand not only the application process, but the strength of your application in accordance to the program. So this application advisor then becomes your biggest advocate in the application process. Okay, so if they feel that you're not qualified enough to get into the program, they will let you know, and they'll let you know what you need to do. Okay, which is very important because we do this every year. And so if you have to go back and get a mathematics course at an undergraduate institution, fine, you go get that and you apply again next year, and that'll make you have a stronger case. So our application advisors are there to help you through this process. We do what we call rolling admission, which means we don't have any specific cutoff dates. There will be, because of student visa requirements and stuff like that, if you're an international student, it is really, really important that you get your application in there as quickly as possible, because it can take, anywhere from, 6 weeks to up to 12 weeks to get a visa. And when you think about a 12-week wait, because I know I was just on the IRCC website yesterday. So if you're an applicant from India, right now it's a 9-week wait. And so that doesn't give you a lot of time to start your application, get accepted to the program, get enrolled in the program by paying your deposit, and then applying for your visa. That's already going to be pretty tight. So if you're an international student, you should get that application in as quickly as possible. Okay, and then rolling admission. So if you're a domestic student, of course, there's a lot more flexibility there, and we can accept people. I will also give a bit of a word of warning that this program is very, very popular. And so we have a maximum classroom size. And so we, of course, can't go above that. So I fully anticipate that we'll have a wait list for this program as well. And naturally, because we admit people on a rolling basis, the sooner you get your application in, the sooner we can consider you to be okay for the program, and we can get you an offer letter out. So once that happens and boom, we get to that wait list part, then you have to wait for somebody to decline or defer their offer before you'll get in. And if you don't do that, then unfortunately that wait list will get moved into start date of 2026. And I'm sure you want to get moving right away. So I don't want to put anybody into a panic mode, but I think it's very important to be proactive. And if this is something you want to do, let's start moving right away and get this done. Now, here's the hard part of the program. The program fees for the cohort starting in May 2025, which is probably you. Domestic fees are 68,350 Canadian dollars. International fees are 89,975 dollars. These are what we call all-inclusive fees, right? So think about an all-inclusive resort in the Caribbean. We're sort of like the same way. This includes all your tuition, all your books, all your learning materials, meals and accommodations during our opening and closing sessions, all software licenses that you'll be using in the program. And the fee itself can be paid through, there's a $5,000 deposit that's required upon acceptance, and that gets you enrolled in the program and saves your seat. And then the remainder is divided over 3 installment payments over the year. So one installment payment will be May 1st, then September 1st, then January 1st, and that'll get you through the 12 months of the program. Students are responsible for the travel arrangements and meeting those travel arrangements for our in-person sessions. So what does that mean? That means our in-person sessions are probably going to be in Kingston, Ontario. Okay, so it's about 2.5 to 3 hours east of Toronto along the 401. So you will be responsible for coming from your home to Kingston. Once you arrive in Kingston and check in at the hotel or our Donald Gordon Center or wherever we are staying that time, at that point, we take over and we cover your accommodation and your meals for the week. And then you then have to travel back home at the end of the week as well. So it's important. We have students coming from all over the place, so it's virtually impossible for us to manage the travel of everyone. So what we do is we have that nice little package where once you check in, we take care of you, and then once you check out, you're on your own. So, okay. Now, I just want to have a quick summary piece that although this is artificial intelligence and it seems very technical, this program is really about business. We know that tremendous business value is derived through analytics AI and this discovery of these insights that support our decision making. Many companies have been implementing this stuff very successfully, and we know that this is the path forward. The digital transformation of every company is imminent. People are working on it, but there's still a gap in the knowledge, right? And so companies need people who have this technical knowledge, but also the leadership knowledge to be able to move their companies forward and to think about these new tools to make their companies even more successful than ever. And AI, of course, it doesn't work, right? People can program in, they can build a system, they can do whatever they want. But if you don't have those power skills, right, you're really going to be in a very difficult situation. You need a vision. You need to think, okay, how can I make this work? What can I do for my company? Then you have to start thinking about developing a strategy of how you're going to push this forward. You have to show extreme and successful leadership to be able to lead these kinds of projects and to push forward in your organization. And that, of course, requires a lot of change management skills and knowledge to be able to do it. You can't do it by yourself. You've got to build up a team and a support network to help you through this. And you can never do this alone, right? Again, you have to work with other people. You have to be able to collaborate. You have to know how to collaborate effectively, and you need to be able to, persuade and work on conflict resolution and those kinds of things, which are very important for your success as a leader in the organization, because ultimately companies are going digital, right? This digital transformation is changing the culture and the way we do business radically. We've been seeing major changes over the past 20 years, but now with AI and generative AI, it's changing things again. And so we need to be prepared for this. And we as a society need leaders who can take this on and have enough know-how to be able to do it right and successfully. And I would say that's you, right? That's what you're here for, and that's what we're hoping that you'll learn from the program. Okay, this is me. This is my email address, and the QR code gets to my LinkedIn profile, so I'm happy to connect with anybody here. We have a lot of different discussions and posts and things about artificial intelligence, analytics, and fintech, and so I encourage you to connect with me for sure. Okay, I'll leave that up there for a second while I answer some of these questions. Okay. So, given the in-person nature of the MMAI program, how flexible is the attendance policy? Okay, so we understand that some people may need to move, but there is an academic regulation that says you must attend 75% of all in-person class time. So, in particular, the in-person sessions, of which we have two, your attendance is mandatory. Okay, there's no if, and, or buts about that. You have to be there. You're getting introduced to your teams. You're working in your teams. It's important that you're there to build that relationship because that's the foundation for literally the rest of the program. As you go through and take specific courses, we understand things come up. There's a number of things that can happen to people, jobs, travel, babies, illnesses, all that kind of stuff. The important thing is when you think that you're going to be absent for a lot, make sure you tell us. We don't want surprises, right? Say, oh my gosh, my father is ill. I might have to travel home to help look after him. Make sure you let us know. And then we have a number of options for that. So if it's something as dramatic as that, maybe you take a pause in the program for a couple of courses, or maybe you retake that course later on if it's only going to be a couple of weeks, or you work your way through it and you get the support of your team that's going to help you do things, or you continue working on your coursework and stuff from wherever you are, right? So there's a lot of different options, but there is that the minute you can't miss more than 25% of an in-person class. So that's a hard and fast rule. But like I said, we do have some options. I'm just trying to look at here. Yeah, so part of your question here is the need to travel for work or personal reasons such as summer vacations. I think if you are in any way committed to completing this program, your summer vacation will wait until the next summer. You will be very, very busy in this program. Your downtime will be extremely limited. So if you are thinking, or if you absolutely have to have a summer vacation, then quite honestly, this program probably isn't for you. You are going to need to be present for the 12 months. And so that includes things like vacation time. Extraneous situations like sickness and jobs and that kind of stuff, that's different. But a voluntary summer vacation, not so much. Okay. Oh, and there's, sorry, the last part of your question is about participating virtually. No. So we don't have Zoom calls for this. We have specific programs that do that. In analytics, we have a blended section, which is all virtual. But the MMAI program, primarily because of the technical nature of the program, and also helps with the team-based learning piece, it is all in person. Are the workshops at additional cost? No, the workshops are all included for sure. Companies are very anxious to have you using their tools, so they're very accommodating with that. So you come in and they'll provide that kind of support. In the past, we've gone to Microsoft. They've got their brand new, beautiful facility there, and we've run workshops there. Snowflake also has a new facility downtown Toronto, and so we've gone there for workshops and those kinds of things. And so those are always provided for free. Okay, so how is MMA and MMAI distinguished? So two things. I'm just looking at the time. We're getting a little shy on time here, so I'm not going to get into the details, but I do have a specific presentation that has been recorded, and you should be able to see that on the website as well. And that compares MMA with MMAI. And so give that a look. If you still have some questions, reach out to us and we can answer those specific questions, no problem. Fundamentally, at the very highest level, analytics is about statistics. AI is about mathematics. And so if you think about those differences, AI is developing products and figuring out how the technology is going to support you in the organization. Analytics is more about evidence-based decision making. And so how are you going to effectively use data to make a decision for your organization? So there are some fundamental differences. Okay. Any particular level of Python to be achieved, or just the fundamentals? I would argue the fundamentals at first, what you need to be able to do. And I think the reality of today in generative AI, you can get your Python code just about anywhere these days, but you got to make it work, right? So that's your level of knowledge is taking code from wherever. And I would also argue that, especially if you're a programmer, that it's sometimes best just to start from scratch and don't worry about copying and pasting off the internet. Because it won't work for you and you're going to have to troubleshoot. And often it's better to be able to write code from scratch than trying to fix other people's code. So, but I'll leave that up to you to figure out. But you should know a little bit about Python for sure. Okay, how does this program differ with MMAI? The one at Schulich. So big point there is what I would argue is your return on your investment, right? The Schulich one is pretty much full time, so you got to quit your job to take that program. Our program is designed for working professionals, and so you don't have to quit your job. So I would say I don't actually, I'll be honest with you, I don't know the details of the Schulich MMAI program. I know it came after our program, but that's all. I don't know the details of it, but I do know that it is geared towards full-time students, whereas ours is geared towards professional students. Are there any alumni support after completion of the program? Yeah, Queen's University and Smith School of Business have huge alumni networks. So it depends on what you mean by support. If you think you're going to get some tech support from us, probably not. But if you're going to get networking support, job hunting support, that kind of stuff, there's definitely a lot. Once you're part of the Queen's network, you're always part of the Queen's network. And we have Queen's grads all over the world. A heck of a lot of them are in Toronto. And so we have a specific AI and analytics business club, which is all about analytics and AI. It includes students from or graduates from other programs as well, MBAs and commerce and stuff. But they run a number of workshops, a mentorship program, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and I got one last one just came in. Working full-time and studying for this program is quite intensive. Are there options to extend the program into 2 years? So no, this is a cohort-based, right, where we want everybody to start at the same time and finish at the same time. And a lot of that has to do with the teams-based learning. And so once we put you onto a team, you're on that same team for the full 12 months. So if you tried to, leave halfway, I mean, it's doable. We're not gonna, we don't keep you here, keep you hostage as part of the program. You can always get out. But then you would technically have to apply to get back in again. And you would have to go through learning about teams again and get it integrated with your new team. So there's a bit of extra work, and there definitely would be a bit of financial cost associated with that as well. But it's, I think it's like 96% of our students start together and finish together. It's a very successful program that way. And I think once you're in it and doing it, the option of leaving halfway doesn't become an option at all. You're into the groove, you're working with a great team, you know what needs to be done, and you can get it done. Okay, what scholarship opportunities? So the scholarship opportunities are strictly academic. So you would have to have like a GPA coming out of your undergrad at least A plus kind of thing. The admissions committee, when they're reviewing your complete application, will determine the application. So there's not a separate application for that. And the scholarships are about $2,000 each. We do have a couple of alternate scholarships. We have one which is for Black students. We have another one for Indigenous students. So there is a separate application for that. You have to be enrolled in the program to qualify for that. So you do have to commit to the program before you apply. And then we have a relationship with Vectors, the Vector Institute in Ontario. And so there are Vector scholarships as well. And so students from this program, again, once enrolled, can apply for Vector scholarship. And that one there is about $13,500. So that's good, but that's extremely, extremely competitive. So do not factor that into the financing of this program because there's, I don't know, 1,000 applicants every year, probably for the Vector scholarship. And so it's extremely competitive. Okay, what are the chances of entry if my CGPA is 3.9 from an economics and management degree, but no GMAT? Okay, well, so the best thing to do, we're going to get into those kind of specifics, is just talk to one of our recruitment advisors. Let them see your unofficial transcript and your resume, and they can give you a better idea of that. Because we do look at work experience along with your academics as well, plus the program that you took, the university that you graduated from, all that kind of information is really important. So it's best just to reach out to our people. Okay, and I think that's it. Nope, we're already 1 minute past time. So my apologies for that. We had lots of great questions. Hopefully I'll see your application soon. And remember, always reach out. It's always better to be proactive and ask us the questions that are important to you as opposed to wondering why and that kind of stuff. Okay, so have a great day, and thanks again for joining me. Bye-bye.